Some of us are doing a consecration to St. Joseph this year. Can you speak a little bit about the importance of St. Joseph and any particular comments you might have for him in our faith?
Okay. So when you do these consecrations, you got to remember, technically it's consecration to Jesus through St. Joseph, right? Like we say, consecration to Mary, not consecrate. We consecrate ourselves to Christ through some amazing saints of the church, like Mary and like Joseph. Joseph. My book on fatherhood, my book on male spirituality, the longest chapter is on fatherhood, and I do spend some time near the end of that chapter talking about Joseph. What's interesting is that Joseph was silent, right? He was a man of few words. There's not one word recorded where the man says anything in the entire Bible. But his actions spoke louder than his words. Because Adam was silent too. Remember we talked about Adam being silent? When Satan attacked his family, Adam stood there and said and did nothing. He was silent. Joseph is also silent in the sense that he doesn't have any quotes from Scripture, but he did everything faithfully that the Lord asked him to do. And he was a man behind the scenes. Mary's the one who gets all the attention. Jesus gets all the attention. Joseph is kind of hanging back, right? Because his job is to make sure that his family gets to heaven. Well, he had no problem. His job was easy in that sense, right? But our job as fathers sometimes is to stand back and to let our wives shine, let our children shine. See, we live in a culture that says the more attention you get to yourself, the more important you are. That's garbage. I have more joy glorifying other people than myself. When I first started speaking, I wanted the partnership with a few people. And they're like, oh, Deacon, we really like you, but, we're kind of doing our own thing. Because, a lot of Catholics are in silos. They want to do things on their own. So I said, if I ever get to a point where I'm speaking full time and stuff like that, I'm gonna do it differently. So what I do, for example, is I mentor up and coming speakers for free. I don't charge anything. In fact, if you look at my YouTube channel, I have something called Walk by Faith Wednesday webinars, where I mentor, where I interview people. This past week was a young gal who's up and coming speaker, Steubenville grad. In fact, she said the reason she went to Steubenville because she heard me give a talk when she was in high school. And after that talk, she goes, I'm going to Adoration, and she discerned Steubenville. Now she wants to be a professional speaker, so she came to me and said, can you help me? I said, absolutely. And so I sat down, we went through a bunch of stuff, and I said, let me interview you so people can see who you are and what you're doing. See, my thing is to showcase, let other people shine. And that's what Joseph does so well. He exercises true humility. What is actual true humility? Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. That's true humility. And I think that's the one virtue that Joseph exudes abundantly in the Scriptures. His obedience and his humility.